Coming up today, President Park Geun-hye says the sanctions imposed on North Korea are starting to turn the screw on Pyongyang. She also touts the need for structural reforms to revitalize the domestic economy. The government announces a three-pronged plan to completely overhaul Korea's ailing shipbuilding, shipping and steel industries, sectors that have been posting eye-watering losses. First, the White House vows to ramp up the pressure on North Korea to get the regime to abandon its nuclear weapons. It also vows to work more closely with China. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's 6 a.m. on Wednesday, April 27th here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom and you're tuned in to our early morning edition of Arirang News. We are going to start at the top office this morning, and President Park Geun-hye spent Tuesday afternoon taking the pulse of public sentiment. She sat down with the chief editors of Korea's major news outlets, vowing to better communicate with all parts of society. The meeting has also raised expectations that the president will have regular meetings with political party leaders. Our presidential office correspondent Song Ji-sun starts us off.
President Park Geun-hye met with the chief news editors of major media outlets over lunch on Tuesday in a bid to expand her communication with the public. In her opening remarks, Park outlined her three-year economic innovation plan that involves creating growth engines to sustain Korea into the next 30 years. She also pledged to listen more closely to the public and work for their needs.
남은 그 임기 기간 동안 이번 선거에 나타난 그 민의를 잘 반영해서 또 변화와 개혁을 이끌면서 또 각계각층과 협력과 소통을 잘 이루어 나갈 수 있도록 각고의 노력을 다 하겠습니다.
The president's meeting with the news outlets is their first in 3 years, possibly indicating a shift in her stance following her ruling party's defeat in the general election 2 weeks ago. After accepting the outcome as a reflection of the public's will, President Park suggested that the three main parties in parliament form a new negotiating body with the government. She added that she is willing to meet regularly with the party leaders after returning from her trip to Iran at the beginning of next month. Meanwhile, in remarks directed to Arirang TV's news director, the president stressed the importance of having news about Korea in the world, saying that Korea's economy and security is closely tied with the international community. Saying that she will do all she can to make the people's lives better, President Park called on the press to bridge the gap between her administration and the public and build momentum for the government's efforts to spur growth. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Now, also in focus at the presidential office were issues such as North Korea's growing nuclear and missile threats, the state of the domestic economy, and the recent general election. Lee Ji-won has more.
During the rare meeting with the chiefs of Korea's major news outlets, President Park Geun-hye touched on numerous issues that have garnered public attention. At the forefront is heightened nuclear threats from North Korea, as well as international efforts that are needed to impose sanctions on the regime. President Park answered questions about China's cooperation on the matter, saying that Beijing has been surprisingly active. Aside from productive talks on the sidelines of the Nuclear Security Summit, she said she's had a follow-up phone call with the Chinese President Xi Jinping, who promised to completely and thoroughly implement the UN sanctions on the North's regime. President Park affirmed that close coordination with China would continue on the North's nuclear issue with the shared aim of securing regional peace and security. President Park also acknowledged economic concerns.
세계 경제가 이렇게 침체 상태가 계속 이렇게 지속적으로 나가니까 또 우리가 아무리 애를 써도 또 우리 경제도 같이 어려움을 겪을 수밖에 없고.
The president reiterated the importance of structural reforms and noted that solving the unemployment problem after restructuring is just as important. To solve these problems, she said more investment, development of new industries, and laws like the dispatch employment law will help create jobs and help companies find employees. Asked whether Korea should consider quantitative easing and inject more money into the slowing economy, President Park said it is a stimulus that should be positively considered. She added that hiking taxes, which some in the opposition have proposed, should always be the last resort. The president also addressed the results of the April general election and acknowledged that public judgment should be taken with much weight. She said it appeared that the people are still concerned about the economy and unemployment. In regards to this, President Park said she will work closely with the 20th National Assembly to handle these problems. 이지원, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, the government is pulling out all the stops to revive Korea's sluggish economy. It has unveiled plans to comprehensively restructure sectors that have lost steam in recent years. Top of the priority list are the shipbuilding, shipping and steel industries. Kim Min-ji has more.
The Financial Services Commission is urging stakeholders to take a stronger approach to restructuring Korea's traditional core industries.
Business conditions are deteriorating structurally in industries such as shipbuilding and shipping, and the situation is not likely to clear up soon. Our task is to either root out low-performance companies or support them to ensure they remain competitive.
The financial regulator is looking at strict restructuring, especially for shipbuilders and shipping firms. Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering, for one, has been advised to reduce wages and jobs on top of the over 700 positions it already cut. Creditors have been asked to get Hyundai Heavy Industries and Samsung Heavy Industries to also come up with self-rescue plans. The FSC has also called on the debt-ridden shipping sector to complete renegotiations with ship owners to reduce their charter rates by next month. If they fail to do so, creditors may have no choice but to put them under court receivership.
It remains to be seen whether efforts at the government level will work. These industries are in a state where restructuring is inevitable. Companies may initially push back, but if it helps strengthen their competitiveness, drive down costs and create synergy through mergers, it could produce good results.
The Financial Services Commission also announced a plan to limit the fallout from its restructuring scheme. It vowed to expand the assets of state-run banks and come up with measures to support workers who are laid off. The regulator says it will implement a three-tier plan that will start with the restructuring of industries most affected by current economic conditions, then cover companies or sectors suffering from oversupply and credit risks. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The White House has vowed to ramp up the pressure on North Korea to halt its nuclear activities. White House spokesman Josh Earnest said the U.S. is going to make it clear to the North that it must choose to rejoin the international community with a commitment to denuclearize and comply with international obligations. He also said the U.S. will continue to work closely with China as it has more influence over the North Korean government than any other country in the world. The White House said it could not confirm reports North Korea is preparing for another nuclear test. North Korea has reportedly decided to allow the international media to cover its ruling Workers' Party Congress. According to sources in China, the North Korean embassy in Beijing has informed foreign correspondents to apply for media coverage visas. This raises the likelihood the Congress will be held between May 6th and the 9th, with Saturday, May 7th being the most likely date. Previously, Pyongyang had made public its plan to hold the Congress in early May. The last time the North convened the Party Congress was 36 years ago, in October 1980. Now, a former U.S. diplomat with years of experience in Northeast Asia says Washington and its allies should leave the door open for dialogue with North Korea, despite the regime's continued threats and provocations. Gonsuar reports.
The countries most closely related to the efforts in denuclearizing North Korea, namely the members of the six-party talks, should be open to dialogue with Pyongyang. This according to the CEO of the Asia Group and former Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs Kurt Campbell, who was in Seoul Tuesday.
I would be of the view that the United States, South Korea, Japan, China, Russia should absolutely leave the door open for talks with North Korea. I believe I'd like to see a five-party meeting on North Korea, if at all possible, just to discuss what has taken place in the last several months. China occasionally hints that they would support such a thing.
Campbell said when he was in China 3 weeks ago, he could tell that the Chinese were very anxious about what's playing out in Pyongyang and how they currently have little influence on their ally.
I'm struck that in almost every corner of the world, China has gaining influence and power. And you see that in every capital in Asia except for one, and that's North Korea. And I think we would expect China over time to exert their influence and power more dramatically.
To gain more consensus on dealing with North Korea, Seoul's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se will be in China this week at the 5th Foreign Ministers meeting of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia. On the sidelines, he is planning to hold bilateral talks with his Chinese, Russian, and Turkish counterparts. The Foreign Ministry said Tuesday that issues related to North Korea will top discussions. Minister Yoon is expected to call for closer cooperation from the 26 members of the forum in hindering the regime from carrying out further provocations and address the importance of thorough implementation of UN Security Council sanctions. It's the first time South Korea is sending its top diplomat to the quadrennial event since it became a member in 2006. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
South Korea and the United States will solidify their mutual commitment to space exploration. They're expected to sign an agreement that would greatly advance both countries' ambitions, both in outer space and back here on Earth. Kim Jeon reports.
Korea and the United States will ink a deal in Seoul on Wednesday to expand their cooperation on space exploration. The agreement is expected to help Korean scientists make greater contributions to space programs on an international scale by giving Korea an opportunity to invest in and work with U.S. space technology. Korea is upgrading its space program, planning to send an unmanned vehicle to the moon by 2020. So the deal will likely help the country advance those ambitions as well. The deal touches upon joint exploration of Mars, projects involving the International Space Station and satellite imagery, and co-development of space technology designed to address issues from climate change to natural disasters and food security. This is the first time the U.S. has signed a space cooperation deal with an Asian country and follows the first bilateral space cooperation meeting held in Washington in 2014 and President Park Geun-hye's visit to the country for a summit in October of 2015. Kim Jeon, Arirang News.
Now, the number of foreign fighters joining the Islamic State militant group has reportedly declined sharply. General Peter Gersten, who is Deputy Commander for Operations and Intelligence for the US-led coalition fighting ISIS, said only about 200 people are estimated to be joining the group each month now. That is a sharp drop from about a year ago when between 1,500 and 2,000 foreign fighters were joining on a monthly basis. He added that the number of defections was increasing as well, but stopped short of giving a specific number. He stressed that they are noticing a fracture in the group's morale and their inability to pay and to fight. Gersten said air raids on key locations destroyed a warehouse storing millions of dollars of the group's operating money. Now, there has been an intense debate over the origin of life on Earth throughout human history, and new research suggests that ribose in RNA can form naturally in space. Park Se-young reports.
The three compounds needed for life on Earth are RNA, DNA, and proteins. RNA is believed to be the oldest of the three and only forms under specific conditions that didn't exist on the planet before life evolved. Scientists now believe that ribose, the R in RNA, may have formed on asteroids and comets that fell to Earth. To test their hypothesis, scientists recreated the conditions of the early solar system. They placed water, ammonia, and methanol in a vacuum and froze them to -195 degrees Celsius. Then they applied ultraviolet light and let the model warm back up to see what molecules were created. The team discovered over 55 organic molecules, with the most important one being ribose. The study, published this month in the journal Science, opens up a new debate on the origin of life and strengthens the belief in the presence of extraterrestrial life. Experts say, however, the researchers need to back up their findings by seeking ribose on a real comet or dust cloud. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Well, those are stories we've been following on this Wednesday morning here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com/news. And we also have a smartphone application. You can just find it by going to your app store and then typing in Arirang TV. Have a great day. Goodbye.